Hey, it's your boy Ivan Sasan, host of Startup REI Show, the number one real estate investing show for startup angel investors. If you haven't done so already, please check out startupreishow.com. We're launching December 1st, 2021. And we actually have a guest on, and I'll reintroduce her now. Her name is Rashmi Nigam. She's a empathetic product leader, real estate investor, and syndicator, as well as a angel investor. So I'll let her introduce herself as we speak.
Hi, Ivan. Thank you for having me here. Super excited, and especially your audience intrigues me because I myself would be a listener to a podcast just like this. So I'm hoping I could add tremendous value to your audience. A little
Awesome.
about me,
Hmm.
software engineer turned product manager, leader now. So I run product teams at various organizations, worked in
Hmm.
dating, gaming, and now in sort of brand tech advertising space.
Yeah.
On the side, I am an active real estate investor. I own and operate about 150 units by ourselves,
Wow.
and I'm also a passive investor in a couple of syndication deals. So I sort
Awesome.
of that's something I've been growing on the side just because it's fun.
Yeah.
And in the last 2 years, I've sort of picked up angel investing too, and just a way to diversify and look at different ways to sort of do our part, my part,
Yeah.
having grown up in the tech space to sort of help other entrepreneurs up and see their journey. So
Awesome background. Awesome to have you here. I think what's very unique about having you specifically is that um, you get to empower other women that are either listening on this or actually watching this. So, first off, I want to ask you a personal question, and then we could dive into the deeper questions for startup angel investing in real estate. So, the first question I usually ask is, why do you do what you do in regards to tech, product, real estate, and angel investing? Mhm. Like if you were to
because I love
deep
it.
it down. Hmm.
I think each of it is a passion. It's something I'm deeply interested in. And basically, I see myself as somebody, who's a techie, who loves data, who loves to
Yeah.
travel, who loves real estate, and who loves food. So anybody who knows me will probably very quickly figure out those are probably the five deepest passion projects that I have. I just love what I do mostly because I think the ability to make an influence and impact something, which you can
Correct.
very easily do in the tech space, is phenomenal, right? To
Yes.
impact hundreds of people or millions with something you push out. It's just very empowering, and it's good to see that. I think in real estate, it's different. There you look at it with giving people a way of living and
Hmm.
empowering the communities, and especially certain areas that I'm now starting to get into affordable housing. So I think
Correct.
again, it's like what is my impact to the world, and what is
Yep.
my piece in this journey that we're on, and what can you do? So that's sort of how I look at it.
I think that's the piece that's usually looked after or looked out into. Like we get these titles that say real estate investor, startup angel investing, but all in all, we're all humans serving other humans in a more infrastructured way in regards to our society.
Mhm.
So, can you talk a little bit more about your background for startup angel investing and how you got into real estate, or whichever one you went 1st? Hmm.
Sure. My real estate journey is much longer than my
Okay.
angel investing. So I'll probably
Hmm.
start with that. Started off probably early 2000s. I
Okay.
think again, I've always been fascinated by the world of passive income. Like,
Yeah.
how can my money work for me when I'm not working? And so
Yep.
when you start looking at it, real estate really seemed like the first way to really, for anybody to make a
Yeah.
good living as long as you're
Correct.
consistently working at it. And
Hmm.
I kind of look at it as a long-term game. So it started
Yep.
off, and many real estate people start in first by buying single-family homes, and then they
Hmm.
run into scalability issues. And then they're like, okay, you know what? I need to jump, and then jump into multifamily or other asset
Yeah.
classes and go in as as a passive investor. Then they're like, oh, this is fun. Let me move to the other side. We kind of jumped around, and we did it the other way around. So I just, when I speak
Oh.
to other real estate investors, I jump straight into multifamily because,
Yep.
again, I just didn't see the value of a home at that point. But so we
Yeah.
bought a whole bunch of multifamily, made a bunch of mistakes, learned along the
Hmm.
way. But I think one thing about working in tech and product, you kind of learn to pivot and just learn from your mistakes and hopefully don't repeat it again. I think that's where you're foolish if you keep making the same mistakes again.
Correct.
And so that's sort of how I started. Jumped straight into multifamily, and first few years was rather passive, even though we owned it. And that's something
Hmm.
I have learned now, that had I been on that journey of education and journey of just having a goal and understanding why I wanted to do it, I knew
Correct.
theoretically why I was doing it, but I didn't really have an exit goal. But now I do. Like everything I'm touching on, it's like, well, here's my exit strategy, ABC,
Yeah.
and how do you push it forward? But in the last 6 years or so, is that's where we've really scaled massively, invested in education, invested in meeting like-minded people,
Yeah.
and staying on top of trends. So now that's sort of where I'm at. And so now we have a few buildings that my husband and I
Hmm.
own, and I run the operations, and we sort of look at it together and make a decision if it's an
Wow.
investment decision we want to do. And I love this. So, sometimes people ask me, will you, how is this a hobby? Is this what? I'm like, no, I'll be 80 years old and I'll be, closing deals. I can't
Still
imagine not
running.
doing it. And the other question I often get asked is also,
Hmm.
will you quit your W-2? Right? Because that is,
Yeah, that's a good
for a lot of
question.
people, it's a why, right? And I'm like, no, and for some people, it makes a lot of sense, but I just find myself in a very unique position where I absolutely love what I do in my day job.
Oh,
And so
wow.
as long as I'm able to juggle both and manage and grow in both, I'll just keep doing that.
Wow, that's awesome
And
to hear. That was going to be my next question in regards to what does it mean to be an empathetic product leader, on top of being a real estate investor and an angel investor, right?
I think it's the idea of, you have to have empathy. You have to understand who you are building stuff for and understand the considerations. And I think as product person, you have the unique place in tech teams, right, where you're not as siloed. You're kind of looking at everyone's point of view, and you're speaking for
Correct.
anybody who's not in the room at that point. And even if it is, and it's not about you, it's not about that, hey, I think this is the right way to do it. It is really thinking about who's going
Customer.
to use it and
Yeah.
what is the
Hmm.
best experience for them, and constantly speaking up and advocating whether they're in that room or not.
So, thank you for that, for being going down deeper about the the understanding and the mind frame of products itself. So then my question then relates to products and asset types in regards to diversifying into real estate, and what you did to get into startup angel investing, because they're both asset types, but
Right.
what made you diversify into both? Or Mhm.
So for me, so having, again, my entire career so far has been working in startups, and
Yeah.
there've been some super successful, some, failed miserably. So, you've seen the entire gamut. And I
Correct.
think at some point you come to a point where, like, you start seeing it. And the beauty that I found with angel investing a little bit at this point, I may be
Hmm.
somewhat early in my journey on the angel investing side, is,
Yeah.
unlike real estate, my initial outflow is not as high as real estate.
Mm,
Because if I'm
correct.
investing as a passive investor, my minimum could be 25. 25 is really unheard of. It's mostly
Yeah.
50,000 you have to now have. Whereas with
Hmm.
angel investing, it's sort of, okay, you know what, 4,000, 8,000, you get in very early. So it's
Correct.
also fun. So the approach we took, this about 2 years ago, was sort of, you know what, let's play some money that we're okay with.
Yeah.
Unlike real estate, angel investment is pretty risky, right? So
Yep.
that's where, like, okay, now are we okay with losing this amount of money? And maybe the upside could be pretty high compared to anything else. And so,
Yeah.
so the idea was, all right, maybe we go in with 3,000 and about 20 or so deals. And then some that come out and do better, then we can do a follow and then bring in a little more money. So it was sort of the money that we agreed to invest in, and then play around with that. And I tend
Got it.
to, pretty much when it comes to angel investing, there's so many categories and there's so much to know out there. As an investor, I tend to look at areas where companies that make sense to me,
Hmm.
right? It's like, it's okay, consumer products, or a little more on the social media side, a little more of these things, right? I will never look at anything on the distribution side because I don't understand that space.
So
And
if
so,
you
sort of stayed in that space largely.
So it sounds like if you understand the trade and you understand the lingo, that's like something that you would
Right.
actually look into and delve deep into as a startup and whatnot. So
I mean,
that's
just to add more to that, I also
mhm,
think at some point you start diversifying, right? Once you have enough of a cushion that you feel like, okay, I have my 401ks. Maybe
yeah,
some people are lucky in your audience that have RSUs and stocks that are coming in. Then it's like, okay, real estate is one part of that portfolio. Then it's really starts getting into angel investing. It starts getting into alternative investing.
correct,
And
correct.
and there's a play. I think we're very early on in this space, but I do
Yeah.
believe in the next 10 years,
Hmm.
gone will be that 60-40 split of, okay,
Yeah.
equity and stock. It's probably going to be some percentage that's 80% this, and then maybe 15 to 20 in alternative investing that has to be part of every portfolio moving forward.
Got it. That's something that I was going to ask specifically in regards to putting your eggs into different baskets and diversifying. How has you and your husband's net worth been divided into putting money into angel investing? I know you're starting early on for angel investing, but real estate and then whatever alternative investments like NFT, crypto, or whatnot. So,
So for us, largely heavily, I think again, benefit of tech sometimes if you have stocks, there's a little bit of, we're sort of heavily skewed at the moment between real estate. Real estate takes over the largest bucket, probably
correct.
equal with our 401ks and RSUs
Mm,
and stuff. Angel investment, I think originally we were just thinking we'll start off with $100,000 kitty.
yeah,
And then so it's like 25 times two,
and then see if it
that's your
grows.
50, and then you keep following and you're okay with. The alternative is very, very, I'm so early stage right now. I haven't even, like, I've pulled aside money, but I haven't put in any because I'm still trying to figure out where to put the money in. But I'm hoping before Christmas I'll do that.
Okay, okay. And now, are are startup angel investors aware of these real estate opportunities, or what's the barrier there?
Where That's a tricky one. Depends who the
Okay.
person is. I think there's certainly been a movement in tech folks getting into real estate just
Mhm.
because they're trying to find ways to diversify their portfolios and
Right.
own some real estate. But it's I think there's more than before, like as a percentage, what percentage knows, I'm not sure. I do think like every other category, most people look at real estate investing as single family investments.
Yep. Or REITs or
Yeah,
fund managing stuff
right.
instead of like typical syndications. So,
That's a
I
big jump for I think most people, even in tech, because you have to work your way up to it. And
correct.
again, it starts up from single family to multi,
Mhm.
investing till they do their own and do their syndications and stuff. And that could be a few years, depending on when a person starts and how much they want to invest in this journey.
So, do you think that it's just the lack of education in regards to making that jump happen and democratizing, like, let's say, multifamily syndication, private equity, as opposed to people just learning more about single family first and then they keep going like that? Does that make sense? Like, is there what what can we do now, or what do you think can we do now to have people understand more about these deals or private
Yeah,
placement deals? Mhm.
I think there's a lot of education out there, and I think your podcast and other similar podcasts serve that purpose, right? People oftentimes don't know people doing multifamily. I look around in my friend circle, very few. Maybe a lot of people have single family homes as
Correct.
investments, but
Hmm.
they don't have multifamily because I think there's a certain type of, it is a risky mindset.
Right.
And so now I think it maybe slants towards people that are a little more entrepreneurial who are willing to take that risk and get into it and scaling. But it's changing. I think there's education, but there's, you may not know whom to talk to, or maybe you're not around people that are doing this to be like, oh, this
Correct.
is interesting, let me do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a self discovery thing. You have to dive in deeper to actually find out for more information. A curiosity factor, at least at that.
Yes.
Yeah. And so my next question would be, as a real estate operator, what's the experience like as opposed to what you usually do before, which was invest passively, or which?
So I did it the other way around.
Oh,
So
okay.
remember, I was owning before I do passively. Real estate operator, it's hands-on is really not for everybody. So I think you have to have the stomach for
Yeah.
it, and you have to have the stomach, depending on, again, stomach to either manage your tenants directly if
Yeah.
you're managing your building, or you
Hmm.
have the stomach to deal with the asset manager and property management and sort of having a project plan, a business plan, and do that. And not everyone's cut out for that, right? And if that, I love it, I thrive on it. But for a lot of people, I think if it's not for you, then that's where passive investment is the best way to get into this space and make some money and not
Yeah.
do much work. I mean, there is a reason why it's actually called mailbox money, because it
Yeah.
shows up. And there have been times where, as an operator, I may not have had cash flow from my buildings, but
Correct.
my mailbox money shows up every month without, largely every month without fail. So there's two ways to play with it. You just have to know if that's your personality or not.
One of the more important questions I have is, what's your take on women in startup real estate investing, in any of the industries? Because yeah,
Yeah, no, I think we need more
yeah,
women to be part of this conversation and equation. It's changing, not nearly enough. So again, just sort of coming from tech where you haven't had too many women, like there've been companies where, or in product tech teams where I'm the only female. I've sort of gone through
yeah.
that experience to having more. So real estate is not that different from tech. It's changing. It's got
Hmm.
women in general, I think, we need to have these discussions about money and investing and growing together. I was actually just talking to a girlfriend of mine last weekend. I'm like, we need to have an investment club that the
Yeah.
women come in and sort of just pool money and play into startup investing and this, and just have fun, that see what happens, because guys do it all the time.
Correct.
and
Correct.
and it's fun and it's a game, and like women don't even sort of talk to each other about the salaries they're negotiating. It is such a closed sort of topic, and we need to change that conversation. So women need to, it's a great way to, again, build that net worth, net wealth, cash flow, stability in
Yeah.
real estate and other investments. We just need to put ourselves out there, learn, and just support each other.
I think that's a good point. One of my mentors is actually a runner, not a runner, but she runs a VC fund down in San Diego, and she's having a massive, not only thought leadership platform there, but huge empowerment and education for nurturing women that just wants to get into the finance or
Hmm.
VC space or even in private equity. And so that's very important. And I think there needs to be more discussion for not only diversity but inclusion of other genders, stuff like that.
Yes.
So. Thank you
Yeah, I
for
mean, I think for a woman, I think that at this point, with all the emphasis on DEI stuff,
yeah,
it's a pretty interesting time to sort of take some of the limelight if you can.
right, right, right. If you were to give 2 points or 2 cents, what would your advice for angel investors that are looking to get into diversifying into real estate?
So, education, the fact that they're doing angel investing already means that they're reading and they're
Correct.
investing. They're, you know, and I think have a clear picture of what is it that you want, right? So if you want to
Okay.
get into real estate investing as a passive investor, are you looking for cash flow? Are you looking for appreciation? But really understand and look at the numbers. Right now, there's a lot of deals that are out there, and there's a lot of money coming into stuff. But when you start looking at the returns, you're like, okay, there's nothing coming the first 3 years, and then
Correct.
there's a refi activity, and then I'll get the money. Are you okay with that? Are you planning on quitting your job? And therefore you just, it's a great vehicle to diversify, and I think every portfolio should have it, but just know what you're getting into. And not only the deal, I think you also need to sort of do your due diligence on the sponsor.
Correct. Correct. Okay.
There's a big, good sponsor. It's like with anything else, most people are good,
Reputation.
but there are a few rotten apples out there, and they just sort of bring down the industry. So just be careful. It's
Yeah.
fascinating how easily people can write a check for $50,000 without doing any background check as to, or does this person have lawsuits? Is this person legit? Have they paid out on other deals? Just do your stuff. But it's certainly, get out there, invest. The risk reward of angel investing is pretty high on both sides, but
Right.
real estate is probably a little more conservative compared to angel, but
Hmm.
it's a guaranteed way to just slowly grow your stuff.
Yeah. Thank you for those two good points. Actually, that's what I've been hearing most. And one follow-up question I do have is, what's your take on cash flow versus IPO? Because this is basically real estate investing versus what you get from like a hoping exit with high risk, high reward with startups. So
Right. Oh gosh.
yeah,
So I like cash flow and I put a lot of emphasis on cash flow because that gives you freedom of choice, right? If you start building cash flow to offset your W-2s, tomorrow you have the option to be like, I actually don't really like this job. Or
yeah,
maybe I should go do a job that doesn't pay me as much as a tech job. But now I have the freedom to do that. So, while I focus on cash flow largely, but I also sort of love to take big strikes at the IPO market because but the odds there are so low that that's that to me is the ultimate gravy if and ever it happens, whether where I'm working, what I'm doing, or projects you take.
yeah.
But cash flow has just been my way of slowly building and amassing assets.
Me personally, I'm more focused on cash flow now until I can take the risk for an IPO. So, um,
Exactly.
thank you very much. And so, how can people learn more about you?
Find me on LinkedIn, Rashmi Nigam. So it's there you go, and
Yeah,
find me on LinkedIn, and just happy to love to meet people in this space and talk, whether it's tech or real estate or angel investing. It's just that's the beauty of technology right now is you can connect with pretty much anyone anywhere. So if you have any
that's
questions, if I can help you, certainly reach out.
yeah, yeah. Any final thoughts aside from like the questions or any thoughts on anything?
Now, I think maybe one thought is like, don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. Just get
Mhm.
started.
Yeah.
And baby steps, really gets into a snowball effect. So just do it.
Oh, you heard it from Rashmi. Thank you very much for sharing your story on Startup by Ria Show, the number one real estate investing show for startup angel investors. I'm gonna end the stream now.
Awesome. Thank you.